coming across a lot of posts on social media for a long time, I finally watched the anime A Sign of Affection. And I have a lot to say about it. Hi, I'm Arya Luna and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I mainly make commentaries like this. Now, coming back to A Sign of Affection. It is one of those romance animes that is sickeningly sweet, and I was expecting no less. That's exactly how I expected the anime to be, and I overall quite enjoyed it. It has a similar vibe to A Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity, but this one is focalized mostly through the female protagonist. Sometimes the storytelling feels also a little bit more mature, like in a slice of life josei variant. I really enjoyed it overall, as I said, and it is a cute anime, but I did not like some of the characterizations, and I have some minor qualms here and there, and I'll get to that. But before I go into a detailed commentary on this, a quick disclaimer. I tried my best to keep the spoilers to a minimum, but be aware that there might be some mild spoilers. So let's go over what I liked first, and then I will go into the other small things that I said I disliked. First of all, I loved the visuals of this anime. I loved the color palette. Lots of pretty pastels were used throughout in all of the frames. And it also has a relatively unique art style. It almost has a sort of a webtoon type feel in my opinion, and I really liked that. I loved the dynamic between our two leads and the focus on open communication and how their relationship was so affectionate and characterized by attentiveness and a clear communication of boundaries. And it was overall a very heartwarming dynamic. And another thing that I really enjoyed was the use of language as a plot device. The fact that more than one character showed care and affection for others through learning a language or a mode of communication just to understand that person they care about is a very powerful message, and I absolutely loved that. And also an ikemen male lead who is a polyglot as well, and who communicates properly with the person he loves. Cool. As someone who speaks and enjoys learning different languages, it's always fun to see how polyglots are represented in media, and I feel like this show does a good job with itsuomi-kun. Everything in the plot, in terms of the relationships built between the characters, development of characters and the general story progression, felt quite natural, and nothing really felt too forced. Except for one thing, and that brings me to the things that I did not like. So first, Oshi-kun. I know that if I didn't like a particular character, it doesn't really count as a criticism, but it's not just Oshi-kun as a character. I get that he exists as a contrast to Itsuomi, the male lead, but he represents so many cliches that I don't know. I found his character to be not entirely necessary to the plot. You could take him out of it and it would still make sense. And he exists for the sake of existing, and that's how it felt sometimes as I watched the anime for the first time. Also, he is basically just a jerk most of the season, but the show kind of forces sympathy for him from the viewer through one episode towards the end. To that I'm like, why? But I would like to pause here and say that this was also just my first view and my first impressions. So maybe if I go back again and I might like the character, I don't know. But one thing that I would have to appreciate is that the little character development for him that they kind of squeezed into the plot, that wasn't bad at all. That was quite nice, and I liked that. And I saw one post on Twitter, aka X, the other day about how dynamics where an introverted female character slowly opens up with the help of an extroverted male character is comparatively uncommon in this genre of romance anime. It's usually the other way around, so this one gets brownie points for that. Also, brownie points for a sensitive representation of hearing disabilities. However, I felt that our main character, Yuki, was often presented as too naive. Yes, I understand how her disability might make her cautious or hesitant, but she is a character who is written as otherwise quite inclined to live her life to the fullest despite of it. So it is slightly confusing when she's sometimes shown to be socially inexperienced or oblivious. So those were actually the very minor things that I have criticisms about. Otherwise, overall, the anime does a very good job in building a sensitive storytelling where two people get together despite several challenges. So it is a good work of the romance genre. And one thing I also want to talk about is some of the modifications that happened in the last episodes according to fans. So Reddit tells me that there were some deviations from the manga that took place in the final episodes of the anime, and that is the biggest indication of the fact that there will not be a season 2, because the timelines were a little bit altered, and it was done so to give the audience a kind of a closure that was not there at that point of storytelling in the manga. The manga is ongoing and the anime finished after 12 episodes. I think what we can do right now is to read the manga and see what happens next and how the manga dealt with the rest of the story. I hope you enjoyed this brief commentary on A Sign of Affection. If so, please don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. I'm new to all of this, so it really helps me a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!